All right, I want to welcome on a very special guest. This guy is an absolute baseball lifer, somebody who played professional baseball for a very long time, played for the Brewers, is now into broadcasting, pre and post game analyst. My good friend, Tim Dillard. Tim, how are we doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm glad. I'm glad I got to be on here. I'm actually in the copy room of the press box at American Family Field, and I just, for whatever reason, just saw this media guide from 2020 Texas Rangers, and I'm pretty sure this is the last media guide I was ever in. So forgive me for scrolling through here.
Oh, did you get did you got a spring training invite that year?
I did. I did. Well, you make a media guide if you get. I mean, even if you're in minor league camp, you still get, you know, an honorable mention in the big league media guide.
All right. Well, kind of jumping right in. Can you kind of give the listeners a little bit of background of your, backstory? Obviously, you're drafted in 2001 as a catcher, and then eventually make it to the big leagues as a reliever. So, kind of explain that journey and that process.
Yeah. How much time you got? It's a long story. I'll give you the abridged version. Um, yeah, I got drafted out of high school as a catcher in 2001, and I didn't sign. I actually had a left shoulder injury. I used to swing really big, kind of like what Tatis is going through a little bit, but mine might have been worse because I had to eventually have to have surgery on it. But went to junior college, got drafted again as a catcher in 2002, and then played really well my second year of college after rehabbing. And the Brewers decided when they were going to sign me, they would say, "Okay, we like you as a pitcher rather than a catcher," because I did do some pitching, and they were like, "We think you'll have a longer career as a pitcher than a catcher." And
So
so,
you did have the pitching
anyway,
background already. You didn't just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
get thrown in.
pitch. I started my junior year of high school only because I caught everybody on the team, and my coach was like, "Hey, how are we going to look this year?" And I was like, I did. I was like, I think I need to pitch. He's like, "You're our catcher." So we got some guy to, learn how to catch. And yeah, I didn't really have any mechanics other than I wanted to be a right-handed Randy Johnson a little bit because I feel like that would be intimidating. And so, yeah, I hit a lot of people. Sometimes you got to hit some people, but I did that a lot, pretty much my entire career. Um, but yeah, I spent 18 years in professional baseball. I spent 10 years straight with the Brewers, and then they didn't sign me back. And then I went to Mexico and got fired, and then went to independent ball in Pennsylvania, and then got picked up by the Brewers and put me in AAA. And so that kind of was what happened for several years, um, because they would let me go to free agency, which is a fancy word for unemployed, and then they would sign me back. So anyway, after my, I guess last year, the shortened season and minor league baseball being canceled completely, I ended up in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Milkmen, an independent baseball team. I was there a month. We won a championship. And then I was actually going to go back this season to minor league camp with the Texas Rangers, but I got approached about broadcasting for the Milwaukee Brewers, doing pre and post game, where I sit there with my hands like this, and I have a pen in my hand. I don't even know why I have a pen, but I saw other analyst people have a pen in their hand, so I just sit there like this, and I'm like, "That's right, Dario. They turned this double play. It was a good double, that kind of stuff." So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my journey. It's been I've had ties to the Brewers going back as 2000, to 2001. So it's kind of a bit of a homecoming.
Yeah. So, like, whenever they asked you to make the switch over, and were you kind of starting to figure it out? Where you're like, "Hey, I'm pretty good at this," or were you like, "I don't know if I can do this"?
Pitching,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I was always a catcher. I wanted to be a catcher. Loved Carlton Fisk and Mike Piazza, Pudge Rodriguez. Like, just watching these guys be complete players where they can block balls, throw people out, and they can hit. That's what I wanted to be. And my dad played in the big leagues before I was born, and he was a coach. He was a minor league coach. So I grew up in the clubhouse. And one of the first things he said to me when I was like 5 or 6, I told him I wanted to be a catcher. He said, "The fastest way to the big leagues is a switch hitting catcher." So that's what I want to be. I want to be a switch hitting catcher. I never got past, I didn't hit that well. I hit a little bit in high school left-handed, but I banged that when I got into college. But um, I don't know. I kind of started pitching out of necessity. So when they started saying, "Hey, we think you should be a pitcher rather than a catcher," there was a moment there where I was like, what have I been doing my entire life? Learning how to get the catching gear on really fast, learning how to block, how to call games behind the plate, throw people out, hold runners, batting, got to give up batting. Like that was a tough thing for a while. But, looking back, I realized that was preparing me to be a pitcher, because you have to learn how to field your position. You got to learn how to pitch sequences and things like that. And So I think my catching background actually helped with my pitching, but I actually was like, okay, this could be a really good move. And then I got to Arizona for extended spring training in early June, I believe, after I signed in 2003. And I see all these other pitchers, and I'm like, maybe I'm not very good as a pitcher because these guys are really awesome.
Yeah. Everybody's throwing
So
like
yeah.
98. Well, I guess maybe not
Oh
as
yeah.
much back then, but
Not as much back then. I mean, there was guys coming in, and the high school gun and the college gun is juiced. So if there's a scout saying, "Hey, I got this player um, that he's out of college or high school," it's like, "Yeah, he throws 95." It's like, "Oh, the potential's there." Chances are, in about 2 weeks after he signs, he's going to show up to Arizona and he's going to throw about 92. And
really.
that's just the way it is. Like I was throwing 96 or something in our junior college playoffs. We went to the junior college World Series, and I'm pumping like 96. And like 6 days later, I'm throwing a bullpen in Arizona. I'm throwing like 90, and it's just
Wow.
like, yeah. I was like, they're like, it says here you're supposed to throw 96. I'm like, I'm feel good, man. I'm throwing, and but it's just the gun. The guns are kind of juiced or whatever. Like they just, everybody wants their guy signed, so they have their, at least that's my theory. Because everybody came in. One kid that came in from like one of the Carolinas, he came in and he was like, "Yeah, I throw 97." We were like, "Dang!" Like at that time, 2003, there's
Right.
only a handful of people on the planet throwing 97. So we were like, "Wow, 97!" And his first bullpen, he's throwing like 93. It's like, okay, well, maybe you don't throw 97 right now, buddy.
That's a
But
huge difference. Like looking at like Mark DeRosa talks about it all the time, saying like like 92 you can usually see seams, 95 like 97 it's tough, and like 100 it's like you don't even see the ball. It's just a blur. Like the
yeah,
difference between that is crazy. Like I haven't played above high school, so like the highest I ever saw was like 85, and like that to me is like it's like blowing by me. So I couldn't imagine seeing something like that where you can't even see the ball, much less read the seams of the baseball.
well, I'm a career 182 hitter, I think, in the minor leagues.
There you go.
But my first at bat in the big leagues in 2008, I only got two at bats. My first at bat in the big leagues, this guy throws a pitch, and I was just like, I mean, I was so late on it, and it was probably like letters high, and I was like, holy crap! I was like, I bet that was like 95. And I
Mhm.
look back up at the they got everything plastered everywhere in the big league stadiums, and it was like 88.
That's awesome.
So sometimes it's not just sometimes it is your surroundings. Like, you guys throw harder when there's bigger crowds, right? Crowd kind of pumps you up. Um, and at the same time, you're in the big leagues, you think you could do anything. It's like, well, I'm gonna swing harder. So your environment kind of matters a little bit, how pitches are perceived a little bit. But yeah, when you reach 100, I hear guys talking about it. It's like you just hope it's straight. If it has any movement whatsoever, you don't have a good shot. But if it's straight, you just kind of swing where you think it's going to be.
I mean,
Like just
talking
real quick.
yeah, but like thinking about somebody like your guy Corbin Burns out here throwing 97-mile-an-hour sinkers and cutters. Like, where? How does that even happen? Like, my brain can't comprehend that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Watching him cut down his mechanics, because back in the day, everybody pitchers, they did the hands over the head and a
Mhm.
lot of motion, and they would throw. But honestly, that can make you throw a lot of balls. You can be all over the place, and so he cut down his mechanics to basically he's out of stretch every time. He almost does the exact same thing with guys on base or not, to a fault sometimes, because it's tough for him to hold runners. The other day against the Padres, they stole like 6 bags off of him just because, but he strikes the world out. So he didn't care if you take second. It's like, you're going to be stuck there because I'm
Right.
going to strike these next 10 people out. But what he did is he developed a pitch. He'd already had a strong arm, but he just developed it and hammered it down to go one pitch where it's like, this is a 97-mile-an-hour cutter, and I can trust it, and then I can make it move a little bit this way on the two seam. So he just pitches off of that plane, and then the breaking stuff kind of complements that. But it's almost it shows you that if you throw hard enough, you can have one pitch and get
Yeah.
away with it.
We
Like
see it all the time
Mariano
with
Rivera.
relievers. Yeah.
Yeah. But for a starter to do that and to do it for 6 innings, 7 innings, like that's impressive. He does mix in a lot of other stuff, but it all starts with that cutter, because righties don't want to hit up the end of the bat and break their hand, and the lefties don't want to break their hand by swinging. So it's a very apprehensive pitch.
Definitely. Definitely feels more on the defensive side of swings. I'm actually a Red Sox fan, so like having like growing up watching Mariana pitch against us all those years, the amount of
Yeah.
like bats, like it's weird because he would whenever he would be in the game, I was like, all right, I hope we have 3 righties up. And it's like the complete opposite of what you ever like see. Like
Yeah,
David
well,
Ortiz would come up and I wouldn't like it.
I talked to a buddy of mine that was like, okay, what makes Mariano Rivera so good? Like, we know he's got this cutter, you know, and it's one of the best pitches in baseball. And but he's not going to throw anything else. He's going to throw that. And I talked to a buddy of mine that faced him several times, and he goes, you know, even if you're playing against him in the same league, you're in the AL East, the chances of, you know, you play him 20 times, the chances of there being a save situation, and the chances that he comes into a game and that your part of the order is up. He's like, we'll play him 20 times, maybe see him twice a year. So you see him one at bat in May, and then you see him one at bat in August. And you have 3 chances to hit the best cutter that's ever stepped on the field. You know, it's like, and cutters are strange because it looks like a 4-seam fastball. Like that rotation, it looks, to the naked eye. I've stood in on a couple of buddies of mine that were pitchers that threw good cutters. And I wanted to know. This was probably 2007. I was like, I got to know what this looks like, because these guys are carving hitters alive. And so I stood up there, and it just looks like it's right down the middle of 4-seam. There's no awkward spin in any way, and then it just moves over a foot. And you're just like, like witchcraft, man. It's witchcraft.
It goes against everything we know about like how a baseball is supposed to move.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if Mariano Rivera was a starter, you know, people got more bats against him. You know, they're gonna have a better approach. But it's the same with Josh Hader. I mean, Josh Hader now has 3 pitches, but when you face these closers, you're only facing them very few times throughout a year, and you may only face them one time one year, and then next season you don't even face the guy. So it's just tough because you kind of hide those guys at the back of the game, and then it's like, okay, 3 hitters get to see this guy. Good luck trying to hit it.
Yeah, I won no part of that. Kind of going back to you though, kind of take me through some of those seasons in Milwaukee. You played with some pretty great players: Prince Fielder, CC Sabathia, your rookie year, Ryan Braun. You know, people like that. What's it like to kind of share the field with some of those type of players?
It's awesome. I mean, it's a privilege just to be in baseball. Number one, like if you play any kind of professional baseball, if you work in that arena, it's a special thing, and you're part of that family. But you know, to be on the field with those guys and compete with them and just be around them, because the guys you just mentioned are some awesome dudes, and they always treated me great, even though I was kind of a fringe guy. Like your listeners are probably like, who is this guy? Who is Tim Dillard? I ask myself that often. But yeah, they because they know what it takes to get to the big leagues and how hard, and like, you know, the sacrifices and just the energy and the commitment that it takes to kind of go through that. And still, it's kind of the luck of the draw to get to the big league. So, you know, there's all these factors. So when you get there, guys are happy for you. And I made my debut in 2008, and then like a couple of months later, we picked up CC Sabathia, and him and Prince Fielder are probably the best teammates I've ever had. Like, not that we were super close and we're like, hey, let's go grab dinner together every night, but just being in a clubhouse and see how they function with everybody else it was fascinating. CC's bad. I saw him, a couple years later, you know, at a distance, kind of waved at him, didn't really get a chance to talk to him, but I actually, somebody called him on the phone one time. This was probably 3 years ago. And he was like, where's Dillard? He goes, I see all your stuff on social media. So I'm FaceTiming with CC as he's heading to the field in New York. So I was like, that's really cool. He remembered me, keeps up with me. We still get a Christmas card.
There you go. There you go. That's big league right there.
Yeah, that is.
Kind of you were describing your journey, you know, even after playing in Milwaukee, you kind of bounced around, played in Mexico, playing independent ball, you know, just trying to get back to the majors. At any point were you like, okay, like, what are we doing here? Like, do I really want to play in this? Or was it just like, I just want to play baseball. I don't care where it's at.
Yeah, you sound like my wife. She's like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, I got 3 kids too. So piddling around in the minor leagues, not making much money, traveling all over the place. I played 4 years in Colorado Springs in AAA, and I live in Nashville. So, you know, there's a month or 6 weeks where I didn't see the family at all. And that's the kind of side of baseball that maybe people don't see as much. Professional baseball, not every family gets to travel. And actually, most guys don't play long enough where they actually have kids in the minor leagues. I mean, some do, but for the most part, like, you're just gone. Like, wherever your home is, you're gone for about 6 months out of the year. And that's probably why you also don't hear about people that quit. there's a lot of people that quit baseball just because they're not cut out for it. But for whatever reason, man, my wife's MVP. We somehow make it work. But there was so many times where we're going, what are we doing? Like, what is this? What is this want? But I tried to get other jobs and other careers, and everything kind of always fell through. And then somehow, some way, I got a playing job, and I played good enough where eventually I got, the next year I somehow found another job. So I just kind of chased that rabbit as long as I could until about 3 months ago, and I retired.
Yeah, well, with a lot of the recent kind of like minor league stuff coming out, I don't know if you saw the Houston Astros story, how they're providing the fully furnished apartments to all their minor league players this year.
See that? See, that wasn't around for my 17 years in the minor leagues. But that's a real thing. Like, good for them. I did see that. The Astros and somebody else, I think, are kind of taking lead on that. Maybe the A's. I'm not sure. But the problem is, like, you're an A ball. Chances are nobody's married. Everyone's in their like early 20s, and it's like, hey, you get one apartment, and there's like 7 people that live there. I've slept on couches, air mattresses. I've slept in the floor. I've slept in my car. Like, you just have to make things work because you're not making any money. And then when you get to AAA, maybe you start to make some money, but then you have to play in cities like Colorado Springs where the housing market's through the roof, or guys like the Brewers AAA is in Nashville now, again, where it used to be. And people were hitting me up the last few months going, dude, I'm going to AAA. Like, where do I live? It's like, good luck. Housing market's through the roof, man. You better get 4 roommates. So, I mean, there's just these challenges that, again, nobody ever really talks about, but you can do one or two things. You can fight against it and say, woe is me, or you can get after it and make it work somehow. And to me, that's all you have to do. You show up every day and just make it work.
So what do you think made you different? Obviously, whenever I kind of pitched the idea of you coming on, I wanted to talk about some of maybe the flaws in the minor league system, but minor
Yeah.
league life is hard. I mean, you were kind of a
Yeah,
pro at being a minor league player with 1,500 innings pitched.
that's true. That's true. I navigated the minor leagues in several different eras, I believe, just because you come up with a crop of guys that are kind of the same. You guys show up the same day in the draft or whatever, and kind of and then guys fall by the wayside or go to other teams. And then here comes another crop of, like, guys that make it, and then they kind of go to the big leagues or go different ways. And so I played with several different crops of generations of players. Early on, we didn't have cell phones. My first couple of years, we'd go to hotels. They had keys, like real keys. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
yeah. So you had to sign this thing. Like, if you lose that key, you got to pay $25. So, whoever, if you have a roommate on the road trips, it's like, I'm in charge of the key. We're not losing this thing. That's $25. And then now, I mean, you got cell phones and all that. I used to use phone cards to call my parents. Like, that's when I started. And then cell phones things, that kind of made everything easier in some ways. So, you just have to accept it. There's ways to navigate it, but you have to be conscious of it. If you're expecting everything to work out, that's going to be a hard life. But that's any life. Like, if you want to be like, if you just expected, oh, it's going to be sunny today, and it starts raining, and you're like, oh man, it's like, why aren't you surprised? Has it rained before? Yeah. Has the bus broke down on the way to a game before? Yeah. Has our flight been delayed before? Yeah. These things can happen. So there's a lot of roll with the punches in minor league baseball. Like, it could be pouring down rain, but the general manager of whatever team's like, no, we're playing no matter what. Then we have to get out there and play. It's sloppy and it's bad, and your ERA goes through the roof. But I mean, that's a part of the game, and like, you signed up for this. And so if you try to fight against that, it's a hard life. I've seen guys have a really hard time, and they don't play a long time because they can't figure out how to just chillax and knowing that they can't control everything. And so, anyway, it's just a metaphor for life.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could apply that to stuff just not inside baseball, pretty much everything in life, like you said. But
Absolutely.
what are some of the changes you would make, or like, what are some changes you think baseball could make to the minor leagues to make the life a little bit more appealing? Because I think a few tweaks can help so many guys continue to grind, or say, you know what, maybe one more year, maybe I can do this, like, give it one more shot.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. They if they paid guys where it became a career,
Yeah.
then people would keep getting jobs, and they wouldn't care if they're in the big leagues. So, like, think about it. If you're getting paid $100,000, which is ridiculous, in AAA, that's a amazing living. You're like in the top, whatever, I don't know the stats. I make them up on air when I'm doing broadcasting, but I don't want to do this to you.
Oh, you're good. You're
But like,
good.
you think about it, you're making that much money. you make it to the big leagues, you may make it way more than that, but you're like, well, I'm still making money. So if you paid players that much, almost like it wouldn't be that much of an incentive. Like, okay, I'm pretty okay just being here in AAA or AA, or oh, I'm a rookie and I'm 19 years old and I'm making $10,000 a month for 6 months. Like that's life-changing money that you're talking about at that age. So I don't agree with. I made the same rookie ball salary as my dad did when my dad was coming up in the early 70s. So
Wow.
just to go to show you, 40 years go by and it's still similar. Obviously, something needs to change, and there's a lot of different things you could do. Like as I got older, I wish we had dental insurance or like vision insurance, but they don't offer that,
Well, it's
which
crazy
is
because you would
strange.
want to take care of your assets.
Yeah. Well,
Like
you
I
want to
want
take
my
care of your
hitters' eyes being
eyes.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You want to get LASIK? Yeah, you better pony up. Um, I don't know. Like I know spring training back in the day, long time ago, they used to have dorms. Like you had dorms and you would go to spring training. Look, watch Major League. I think that they have
Yeah.
dorms during spring training, and that kind of went out of the way. They were like, man, that's way too much money. So they put guys at team hotels and spend through the roof. And um, and that's hard because then you got to get shuttles from that place to place. But some teams are starting to go back to putting rooms and board. The Rangers built a kind of a dorm system right across the street from their spring training complex, and that helps. That helps the minor leaguers going, okay, I can walk to the field every day. I'm not getting in my car. I can go walk to the grocery store because it's right there. Like that stuff helps because not everybody coming from Dominican has a car, right? I mean, I guess you could Uber now, but I don't know. Things have gotten easier in a lot of ways, but I think everyone compares baseball to every other job. So they're like, we're not even making minimum wage. But here's
Right.
the thing. If you're making minimum wage, we'd all be, we'd be making tons of money because we put in so many hours. It's just
Exactly.
not feasible. It's not feasible. Not to say that it can't get better. It can in certain like little ways, but people are looking for some drastic thing across the board that's going to change the minor leagues, and it's not going to happen because they can just go find other people.
Right. There's enough people out there to say, like, you know what, the talent might not be as high, but there's gonna be people willing to come play.
Yeah, that's why you have the MLB Players Association. So like MLB went on strike throughout the last however many decades to get the clout so that they can get things changed in the big leagues. And they've actually been taking a lot of rights away from the minor leagues. I don't know how technical your podcast is, but they've taken away a lot of stuff from the minor leagues as collateral to the owners and the GMs so that they can make the big leagues better. So it's actually harder to get to the big leagues now than it ever has been. And they've cut minor league teams across the board and players. So technically right now, if you went to a AAA game, the caliber of AAA is probably going to be a little bit down just because so many people had to retire and quit because of limited numbers, because guys just couldn't get signed. So now you have probably the youngest AAA rosters in years. So that's the crop that's sitting there. I don't know. I don't know what I can't put my finger on one thing to change, but I remember we used to get $20 a day meal money when we'd go on road trips. And I was so excited one year when they decided to give $25 a day. That was huge. So I don't know. Maybe just helping with housing would be a big one. It sounds like that's what the Astros are doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, just kind of looking at it from like a technical standpoint, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to invest in these guys and say like I feel like when it comes to 6, 7 years down the line, whenever it's time for their first contract extension, it's like, hey, they took care of me, they provided housing, they paid my family a livable wage. But I think a lot of baseball fans don't realize some of like the fringe minor league guys have to have jobs outside of baseball, and there's people who have to go work as a plumber or have to work as a pizza delivery driver in the off season whenever they could be spending that time in the cages or, throwing bullpen sessions.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've had several jobs in the off season. That's just kind of part of it. Yeah, the thing is, you're talking about a very rare group. Like for a guy to sit there and make it to the big leagues and get to arbitration and that kind of stuff. I mean, not everyone kind of gets to that point. Everyone's kind of fighting to get to the big leagues, and so here's what it boils down to. You have a AAA team, and I say a lot about AAA because I have so many years there. But you have a AAA team, and you're going to have like 3 prospects or 5 prospects that are like these guys are going to be 10-year big leaguers,
Mhm.
and that's who they focus on. But then they also have 20 other dudes that they don't really care about as much. But can you put a team on the field with 5 guys? No. Do they want to take care of those guys and let them have all the amenities and stuff like that? Absolutely. But they don't want to pay the money for 25 other dudes. They don't want to do that. So that's why you have the draft where guys make, $4 million getting drafted. The owners see that as, here's $4 million. If you want to eat a nice meal in AA, you can go buy it. If you want to have a nice apartment and, rookie ball, you can go buy that. That because we've given you the money to be able to do that. So everyone else is just kind of like, well, piece it together, make it work as best you can.
Yeah, I saw a couple people talking about this on Twitter, which is an absolute hellscape, a couple of days ago. And one of the person's argument was, Spencer Torkelson just signed $9.8 million signing bonus. I'm like, not everybody gets $9.8 million signing bonuses. In fact, if you're outside of the first couple of rounds, your signing bonus, I don't want to ask you personally, but the later rounds, people's signing bonus might be $5,000.
Yeah. Nate Orff, who got big league time. He was with the Brewers. I think he was with the A's last I saw. I can't remember who he's with now, but he made a joke to the scout that was trying to negotiate for him for the draft. He was with the Baylor, and he goes, dude, I'll sign for a Snickers bar. And so instead of giving him I forgot what it was, $10,000, they give him 4 as a signing bonus, $4,000 because they knew how desperate he was. And I'm like, that kind of sucks. But later on, we that kind of became a thing. The quote came back up when he was in AAA, and so we were kind of laughing about it. And Snickers heard about it, and Snickers sent him this briefcase, a Snickers briefcase filled with Snicker bars, and had Snickers batting gloves. And so I make videos with my teammates on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. So I was he asked me, he goes, hey, I want to shoot a video thanking Snickers. So I came up with this concept that we were going to do, and I shot the slow motion video of him just throwing Snickers out of this briefcase, and rubbing the Snickers all over his body.
It's awesome.
And stuff. And anyway, that kind of went viral. There was a lot of people retweeting it, and it's funny and stuff. But at the same time, yeah, there's guys that are not even getting Snickers bars, to sign and play professional baseball. But if that's your expectation, if your expectation is, I'm going to get rich playing baseball. I tried for 18 years. Maybe there was a month in 2012 where I felt rich for a moment, but very few. It's such a thing. I'm not saying you can't do it, or you're I'm going to dream it, I can be it, right? The cat poster at school on the wall. Not saying don't do that, but just have realistic expectations of okay, if your whole goal is to go and I'm going to be rich playing baseball, it could happen. I'm not saying it won't, it could. But if you operate in the shoulds where this should happen, I should be in the big leagues, I should be doing this, I should get this, that's a tough life. And you're not going to be around baseball very long because you operate in the mindset that this should be given to me, I should get this, and it's not going to work, at least not in this game.
Definitely not. Kind of transitioning out of the minor league stuff. You get the privilege of, knowing Bob Uecker. How awesome is that?
Yeah. Literally his radio thing is right there. He doesn't do away games, so he's not here today. But yes, I see him every home game, and it doesn't get old. He is so good. He is everything you want and more. To have his attention for 20 seconds a day is the highlight of the day. So the other day I was leaving the park, and I was talking to the producer that I work with, one of them, and he was asking me about the next day, oh, what segment are we going to do? I sound like I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing as far as the technical side of TV stuff.
You still learning? You good?
Yeah. I'm dipping my toe in the water. So then this black, I thought it was a Lamborghini. I guess it was a Corvette or something, but this brand new thing just comes pulling up, and Uecker rolls down the window, and he's he was talking about the game for a second. And anyway, I made a joke, a real joke, not the jokes I've been telling you. These are bad jokes, but I told a good joke, and Uecker started laughing, and he's like, see you later, T. Calls me T. I don't know if he knows my name. Doesn't matter. Drives off. And I was that's been the highlight of my first 2 months being a broadcaster, is literally getting Bob Uecker to laugh out loud, a real laugh, not a courtesy laugh where it's like you're doing now. You're oh yeah. No, I mean a real.
No, I'm enjoying this.
You upped your laugh right there. No, but yeah, like I thought that was really awesome because the guy has seen so much. He's been a part of so much. And for him to take the time, I see him walk down the hall, man. Everybody stops what they're doing. He walks down the hallway in the press box and everyone just stops. It's almost like, I wonder what he's going to say today. Like it's just, but he has time for everybody. It's really cool to see, to be around this game that long and still be excited to go to the field and excited to talk to everybody. Like that's a gift, man. That's a gift.
I got to be honest. I didn't think Bob Uecker would be driving a Corvette.
I know. I didn't see that coming either.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It makes me like him a lot more.
Yeah. I guess he has several cars. But anyway, I was like, who is this? I thought it was a player. I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh, it's Bob Uecker.
Yelich got some new wheels.
Yeah, right. And it's funny too, because they have a parking lot for the players. So like everybody's like, you got to walk downstairs and go across some sidewalks and then walk into like this big dock area, where they have like loading trucks and semi trucks come in for supplies or whatever. And Uecker, he drives like straight up in there. He has the best parking spot, and he's had it forever. Like he can park where no one else can park. That's what they say about him. They're like, he has access. He can park. He can do whatever he wants because he is whatever the word is above legend.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm gonna ask you the last question. Sure. Ask all of my guests. If you can go back in time and just kind of witness or relive any moment in sports history, what would it be?
Ooh, any moment in sports history? Dang, that's a big one.
I get that response a lot.
Well, I mean, it's an all-encompassing question. I'm sitting there like, I don't know. Because now I'm on the broadcasting side. I would like to hang out with Harry Carey at a game because he used to do the broadcasts from like in the stands with no shirt on, calling out the game as it happens in a Cubs day game, which I found exciting. Man, that's anything in history. One that comes to mind, I'd like to see Randy Johnson when he hit that bird flying. I mean, I feel bad for the bird. I don't condone hitting birds with baseballs, but like if it happens randomly like that, nothing you can do.
I mean, that was your goal in high school. Cool. That's what you just said.
Yeah, right.
In high school, you wanted to be right-handed.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I wanted to be right-handed Randy Johnson. I would say, what about when Nolan Ryan was punching Robin Ventura when he charged the mound? That would have been cool to watch. I don't know. I'm sure you could throw any World Series in there. I was actually at the 2016 World Series for the Cubs when they won it. So that was kind of cool.
You were there for Game 7?
Yeah, I was up in the stands. I was sitting like third deck, kind of behind home plate. I was behind Javier Baez's family. Like all of them are wearing Baez jerseys, which is really cool. Got to be in the tunnel. Got to see Chris Berman from ESPN. He was down in the tunnel. Trying to think who else I got to see. Got to see all the Cubs players and some of the Indians guys. But baseball is just cool, man. I mean, every day you don't have to pick one moment. If you watch a game, you're going to see something you've probably never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning Javier Baez, like the play against the Pirates earlier this
week.
Week.
Unbelievable. That may not ever happen again in the history of the world. So like stuff like that it's big and it makes the news, but even the most mundane, boring game, you can still see something. You're like, wow, I've never seen that before. If you're paying attention. And once you get in the game or once you turn the TV on, it's free to pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I kind of made this point on the podcast. I'm sorry, I'm trying to wrap up, but still, I made this point on the podcast. Have you ever noticed this kind of like, everybody was kind of being like, oh, the Pirates, like they're dumb or whatever, But Javier Baez seems like he's in the center of these plays a lot. Like it kind of feels like if people, I don't know if they kind of panic because of the name at the plate, someone who's quick, someone who's very aggressive on the bases. Do you think that could kind of play into it?
Well, I think some people just can't even think outside the box. To me, it's called like a situational awareness. There's people that have it. There's people that have it and you can just notice it right away. There's other people that have no clue. They're really good at baseball, but they have no situational awareness. They couldn't tell you what to do with a man on second, nobody out. They couldn't tell, a pitcher, man on third, less than 2 outs, has no idea what the hitter's trying to do. It matters too. When I was pitching, I'm facing a young guy in a certain situation. I'm like, okay, if this young guy, he has no chance. He has no idea what this situation is. So I'm going to take advantage of that. But another time I'll be facing like an old veteran and I'm going, this guy knows exactly the situation. I know exactly what he's trying to do at the plate. So that stuff matters. And I've played with some guys that had some amazing situational awareness, just can eat, sleep and breathe baseball. They just know what to do in every moment. And Baez, from what I can see and, playing against in the minors and, watching him on TV, this guy probably has some of the best awareness in the game right now. Maybe ever. Who knows?
I mean, whenever he made the safe sign and then was like, oh, wait, I still have to go touch first, and then took off running, that might have been like the funniest baseball clip I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, when you're that good, he's allowed to enjoy the game even more. Like, it's hard for some people. I'm not going to lie. Baseball's hard, but for him, it just seems kind of easy.
Man, how nice. I would love to be, hitting 240 with an 800 OPS and people to freak out and be like, oh, this guy, he strikes out a little much. I'm like, man, give me that job. Give me that life. I would love it. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, especially when the coach is like, or the GM's like, hey, swing hard for a home run every single time. We're still going to pay you. It's like, that's the thing. But if you tried to do that in the minor leagues, you'd never make it to the big leagues. Think about
That's
that.
wild.
Yeah. So anyway, what you do whatever you can, hit as best you can, or throw as best you can, get to the big leagues, and then you can basically do whatever you want once you sign a contract. Or at least that's what I heard. I've never signed a contract.
And that note, we will end it. Thanks again, Tim, for coming on. It was awesome. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Appreciate it. No, this is fun, man.